his 60s. He moved to Algoma in 91 and switched to digital photography in 2001. Bob is strictly an amateur photographer, according to his own description. Using a digital zoom camera, he has sent thousands of bird pictures to Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for use in their publications. And I can tell you, Bob takes wonderful pictures. You're in for a treat. This is a terrific program. Bob Kuhn.
Okay. If you picked up one of the handouts that's back by the door, that one describes my old camera. I got a new one right before Christmas. It's this. It is a Nikon P1000, and it has a 125 time zoom on it. That's equivalent to a 3,000 millimeter lens. The camera that was described on this handout was the one I've used the last 3 years. It was a Nikon P900. It only had 83 times zoom on it. It was lighter and easier to handle, but this one has a lot more oomph to it. On the camera that I had before, I used it 3 years. I took 80,930 pictures on it. I've had this one 3 months, and I've taken about 9,000 pictures in those 3 months. I guess we can go on then. John? All right, we have birds that stay here, that don't go anywhere, including Canada geese. There's a flock of 200 or 300 Canada geese that are here 12 months of the year. They raise their young here in the summer, and they're sticking around the lake all winter long. Of course, we have the seagulls down by the lake, the ringbill and the herring gulls. They're here all year. I've seen them oftentimes on the breakwaters covered with snow, and they shake it off and they're fine. But then we have other birds that are here all year. We do have many that come and go, so we'll get to those later. But this is, we have a heated bird bath that is very popular in the winter. Gets a little ice around the edge, but the goldfinches and the house finches, they're there all winter taking a drink when it's hard to find a drink. Okay? That's the nuthatch. Often at our bird feeders in the winter. We have suet out for the woodpeckers. That's the red belly. He goes on, doesn't he?
It does.
Okay, next one. Little woodpecker, hairy woodpecker. This is, a lot of these pictures are taken out of our kitchen window. We have the bird feeders right outside the window, and this is up in the tree above them. The bird feeders hang from this branch, but he was sitting up on the top. And the brown creepers that go up and down, they'll go back and forth, up and down, picking out things that are under the bark. And there, of course, is the chickadee. The goldfinch is that one is in his bright breeding plumage. In the winter, they're a lot duller than that, but he's getting ready to get mated, so he's got his dandy clothes on. Okay.
How come we can't get men to do that?
Wait a minute. This is the red crested bumping time.
Occasionally robins will winter, but they come en masse. This was a couple weeks ago in our front yard. First one came in. Okay. That's a house finch. They're The male has this kind of rosy color on. Females are just streaked. And the cardinal. They sit up in the tops of the tree and really give a concert when it's breeding time. All right. The first picture here, that was up in Sturgeon Bay, but the other one was down at Olson Park when there was a family of little ones down there by one of the boat ramps at Olson Park. Mallards we have all winter. They're down by the harbor all winter and in people's yards. The ones that are standing on the ice, that was on thin ice on the river down here. And, you know, the ice was kind of wobbling. They don't care. They just as soon get wet. The gulls, these are the ones here all year round. A lot of ringbills. This was a week ago today, last week Saturday, off of Fremont Street on the west side of town. He was really strutting. There's a flock around there pretty frequently on that field just off of Fremont on the west side. We have birds that are only here in the winter and come down from farther north and then go on farther north a lot of times. Let's go on to the next. That's the siskin singing. We had siskins this year. We didn't have, I don't think I saw many redpolls this year. Some years there are a lot of them, but not this year. Okay. This was out on the South Breakwater. Snow bunting was out on the South Breakwater and just hopping around picking up stuff on the cracks. Crossbills have an interesting beak. The points cross, and it's for prying open pine cones. Buffleheads, again, a male and a female. This was a couple weeks ago, a pair of them. They're some of our diving ducks. They will go down and you never know where or when they'll come up. They may stay down for a couple minutes and come up somewhere way far from where they went down. But they're a fish-eating diving duck. Another diving duck, the golden eyes. They have bright yellow eyes. Females have a brown head. The guy on the right is doing a part of his dance. They look like they have no necks, and then all of a sudden they stick that neck way up, and he'll put his head way back by his tail. All kinds of showing off that he does. These are scops, male and a female. He is eating a mussel. They seem to love mussels. How they manage to eat them, but I don't know. But they come up with a mouthful of mussels, and somehow get it down and eat them. Seem to relish them. That was on the river by the 4th Street Bridge. That one of the male was at the 4th Street Bridge. The female was out by the harbor. These are the big common mergansers. Another diving duck, but this is quite a bit larger than the last ones that we looked at. A male and a female. The female has that white under her beak. They again dive and spend a lot of time underwater chasing fish. This is the red-breasted merganser. He has hair problems. They both have some hair problems, but he's got more. And a bright red eye, absolutely red, just real bright red. And they have a mating dance that they do too. You'll see them bobbing around and showing off. Sometimes like 4 males chasing 1 female. They really do some dances. These are a little less common. The redhead was sitting on the ice in the harbor down here a couple weeks ago, early March. The ringneck, well, that one was up in Sturgeon Bay at Sunset Park. Long-tailed duck, very, very handsome guy. Don't see very many of them, but they're quite impressive, that long tail behind them. Hooded mergansers, again, they do a real dance too for their mating. That crest or hood, he can raise it up, he can lay it down, and very expressive and very showy for his mating dance. These are ducks that nest in the Arctic and will winter on the Great Lakes, the scoters. The one on this side was a couple of years ago. The other one was, I think, in December this year. That one was down on the harbor here. These are all snow geese. A lot of different colors, but they're all snow geese. They used to label some of those blue geese, but they're really all the same breed. They just have a color variation. This was down at Crescent Beach a couple of years ago. I haven't seen these this year, but they pass through on their way to the Arctic. These tundra swans, this was, I think, 2 weeks ago on a flooded field off of Highway D near the county line, up near the Door County line. Only seen a few of these. There was a flock of a dozen there, and 10 of them had their heads tucked into their backs. But 2 finally got their heads up so you could see what they were. They do pass through in large flocks that are quite noisy when they go. Okay. This is a larger swan, the trumpeter swan, and this one was right across the parking lot here, right in this part of the harbor, right up out here. He's walking along the shore. That's just all by himself. Wasn't a flock. They do nest somewhere in the area here. Snowy owl. That's on a picnic table near the football field here in town. That's a young one. The older ones get pure white, but the young ones have this speckled look. We have birds that are only here in the summer, but especially the birds that eat flying insects, because there aren't any of those here in the winter. Okay. A couple of years ago, we had a flock of, I think, a dozen scarlet tanagers, and they stayed for about a week, and a brilliant, brilliant color. Haven't seen them much since then, but that one year we had just a beautiful flock of them. Another tanager, the summer tanager, not quite as bright. And the indigo bunnings, very bright, bright blue. We put out orange halves in the spring, and the orioles and the indigo bunnings and the catbirds like the orange halves. They'll pick the meat out of it. There's the oriole. These we get every year. The orchard oriole is a little different, not as bright and not as common as the Baltimore's. And the grosbeak with that great big beak on. The male, of course, is showy. The females are streaky. The song is the whitethroat, I think. These come in the spring. This little guy is a kinglet, little bitty bird. Was sitting on raspberry stems outside right by the back of our garage. Little bitty guys, very tiny.
I'm gonna check to see if I skipped one.
No. Well, he's supposed to sing. Okay,
See if he sings.
there he goes. Yeah, these we have every summer. And they do like to sit on the top of a branch and sing. Yeah. Brown thrasher. He kind of does everything twice. And quite a varied song, but they, each part of it they usually do twice. Cedar waxwings come through in flocks, and they often come to a crabapple tree that has crab apples left on it. This we only saw once, was right outside our kitchen window, and we enjoyed him while he was there. Very, very pretty warbler. House wrens we have every year. This is right outside our kitchen window. We have that's a plant hanger, a hook, you know, that we have a hanging basket on. He loves to sit there, sing. Red-eyed vireo, that was a number of years ago. We haven't seen many of these. The hummingbirds are here every year. We have some crocus mia flowers that they like. It's a kind of a tube-shaped flower. And we have a hummingbird feeder as well. The males have in most pictures it just looks like a dark throat unless the light is on it right. Then it reflects. The females just have a white throat, clear white throat. Catbird. These nest somewhere in our yard. They come in the spring and they like the oranges. But they're here all summer. These swallows are both down on the point now out here. The tree swallow is on the parking lot on the point. You see the yellow stripe. The other one's on the curb at the edge of the parking lot, the barn swallow. Down there because there are hatches of insects around the harbor. That's a pelican, and he's got something. He's scooped up something out of the harbor. These come, I've seen 200 out here on some years, but last year I didn't see that many. The next picture shows them flying. The pelicans have, I think, a 10-foot wing spread. Eagles are about 8 foot. These are about 10. They're really great flyers, wonderful flyers, because they have those long, long wings. And of course, they can scoop up fish with that big beak. Pair of wood ducks, beautiful ducks. I think this pair was down here by the harbor. Blue-winged teal, this was in a flooded farm field in the spring, I think. Horned grebe, this was down at the harbor here. In the winter, they're just black and white, but in breeding season, they get this, the headdress on, their fancy headdo. Little pie-billed grebe. In the winter, they lose that black stripe around the bill, but in breeding season, they have that black ring around their bill. Shorebirds that wade, yellow legs. He has very long legs. This is the great egret. That happens to be up in Sunset Park, feeding along the edge, about the size of a great blue heron, very almost identical in size. And there's the heron. That also is up at Sunset Park. They have on the north end of Sunset Park, there's a couple of boards that seem to be anchored and floating there. And the birds love to, and the turtles also love to sit on that board. Bonaparte gulls, these we only see in the summer. These are big gulls. Both of them are very large. The great blackback and the glaucus, twice the size of the normal gulls that we have. Caspian terns, these are here every summer. That's on the North Breakwater, and that's part of their mating ritual. That one will offer a fish, and the other may or may not take it, and then they mate right down by the harbor here. See that pretty much every year down here. They're a big bird. These are about half or less than half that size, common terns. Also, this is on the breakwater, or no, that's on the beach. That one's on the beach, on Crescent Beach. A dunlin, another shorebird. This also is along the beach down here. And the sandpiper on the other side. Some more beach birds. This is on Crescent Beach. The little least sandpipers were right out here between the breakwaters on a log. Semi-palmated plover, that also was right down here, I think right in front of the youth club here. And of course we have the eagles. The one on the left was, I think, about the 1st of March on the tree right between here and the marina. They sit there often in the winter. He was turning around. The pair over there is at the end of the South Breakwater. That also was, I think that was back in February. That's sitting on the end of the South Breakwater out here. This is a nest that's north of town, north of Washington Road. We've been watching that one for, I think, 10 years or so. That was, I think, March 11th, sitting on eggs in the nest. That's snow on the left. They often lay their eggs in early March, and they will be covered with snow. There's a nest in Decorah, Iowa that they have a camera on, and a lot of times you'll see them covered with snow, and they'll shake it off. But they lay their eggs in March, and they will hatch about now. Probably this coming week they'll be hatching. Can you go back, John? The picture on the right, that nest north of town raised 3 eagles 3 years in a row. Last year they only had one young one, but for 3 years in a row they had 3 that they raised to fly away. Okay? This is their first flight away from the nest, and they have a hard time getting the landing to get a hold of the branch right, but they learn. It's trial and error. Okay, the sound is the merlin, and that one is sitting on the top of the gym here, on the roof of the gym, during a high school band concert in the summer a couple years ago. The sharp shin was in our yard. That was next to our porch, actually. The peregrine, I went up by that eagle's nest north of town, and he was in a tree across the road from that nest having his lunch. That's a young peregrine. And of course the cranes are around right now, doing their calling and their dancing. This was, the one on the left here was last year in April, I think, when we had the April snowstorm. And they were doing a mating dance in the snow. The one on the right with the little one, I think that was like July last year. The picture of the eggs in the nest, that was a picture that I found on a file. I didn't take that one. Killdeer. Okay. The last picture is an unusual bird, the woodcock. This one happened to be in our yard right next to our porch. They use that long beak to poke down into the ground to find grubs and worms. And he should have been gone because they can't do that in the winter. He has to find somewhere where the ground is soft so he can feed. He should have gone south. Okay. I want to thank all of you for coming. Anybody have any questions?